Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com.
And by Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty. Their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
Welcome to our show number 1067. First, on our show today, a headline. Wisdom, the famous Laysan albatross, has returned to her nesting site. She's believed to be the oldest wild bird in the world at age 75 at least. And she's back at Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge in the Central Pacific for the new nesting season. Her new yet-to-be-named mate has also arrived. If all goes well, Wisdom will lay another single egg and stay on the atoll to nest this year. Biologists, by the way, estimate that Wisdom has raised as many as 36 chicks. Meanwhile, the Endangered Species Act is under threat. We'll learn more about that today and what we might do in response. Plus, we'll talk about birds ending up in unexpected places here in early December. And right now, an audio postcard taking us back to early October.
Hello, bird lovers. I believe this is wood thrush. Gorgeous State Park, North Carolina, October 2nd. It's just about dusk.
Joy in North Carolina. Thank you, Joy, for that very birdie audio postcard. We're actively accepting audio postcards from wherever you're watching birds or listening to them, so grab a smartphone or other device like that that has a digital recording thing. Record a description of what you're seeing or hearing, and send the file. Write it to Ray at talkingbirds.com. That's Ray at talkingbirds.com. And now, sound of our mystery bird. The actual contest later. This is a little preview. Our mystery bird is a very small songbird with blue-gray upper parts and buffy white underparts. The head has a dark gray-brown cap, and there's a thick black eye line and a straight, sharp bill, and there's a gray spot on the nape. Our bird, which is a year-round resident of southwest Canada, much of the western U.S., and central Mexico, climbs down tree trunks and branches in search of caterpillars and other insects, as well as conifer seeds. At backyard feeders, it favors sunflower seeds and nuts. Beautiful prizes today for your body and your buds. Taste buds, that is, from Plain Products, whose mission is to provide clean, sustainable products in reusable aluminum bottles, not plastic. It's a 4-part travel set. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and body lotion. And for your taste buds, a 12-ounce bag of our favorite coffee. Delicious, shade-grown, bird-friendly Birds and Beans coffee on our Mystery Bird contest coming along later in the show. Now, a word about the royal members of our Talkin' Birds audience, our ambassadors, listeners who answer our on-air invitation to step up and help spread the word about the show and the things that we're about: wild birds, birding, and conservation. We're trying to grow our Talkin' Birds ambassadors family so that we might welcome our 1,000th member by the end of December. We now have only 25 days to go, and we are 26 ambassadors short of the goal. Will you help us get there? If you like our show and would like to help us spread the good word about birds and conservation, please do join today if you can. I'll explain how in a moment. We usually do our on-air thank yous to ambassadors based on the order in which they've signed up, but we're making an exception today. In the case of Kathy from Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, she just signed up a few days ago, and we're airing this thank you early based on part of her comment here. Kathy says, I'm signing up as an ambassador to share more of the natural world with my high school students. I teach biology. And because I'm tired of hearing my hubby Bill nagging me to sign up. Let's get to 1,000. Well, thank you, Kathy, for getting us closer to that 1,000-member milestone, and thank you, Bill, for that nudge. To join our ambassadors family, just swing over to talkingbirds.com, no G in talkin'. Click on the Get Involved tab. That's talkingbirds.com, and maybe you'll be the 1,000th member at the end of December. Well, still to come today, we'll talk with the American Bird Conservancy's Hardy Kern about trying to save the Endangered Species Act. And we'll learn more, as we do every week, in Mike O'Connor's Let's Ask Mike segment. And up next is today's featured feathered friend, presented by the Bigger and Better BWD magazine, with each large format issue packed with beautiful photographs, illustrations, and in-depth articles ranging from backyard birds to birding abroad. Experience birds up close with BWD at bwdmagazine.com. Well, our Talkin' Birds show originates from a studio here on the South Shore of Massachusetts, about 30 miles south of Boston. Not an area where one would expect to see today's featured feathered friend, the limpkin, a goose-sized but slender wading bird whose U.S. range is mostly in the state of Florida and along the Gulf Coast. But last Sunday, a limpkin was seen in a town called Scituate, just down the road from our studio, by lots of pretty excited folks, not including your unlucky humble host, who missed it by about half an hour. Much of the excitement stemmed from the fact that this individual bird represented the first state record for limpkin in Massachusetts. Why it ended up here isn't known, although getting caught in a storm is often the explanation for such far outside of normal range sightings. The limpkin is a long-legged bird that looks a lot like an oversized rail. It's mostly brown with white spots on the back and sides, with a large, downward-curved yellowish bill. In its typical environment of marshes and slow-moving creeks, it feeds mostly on apple snails, along with other snail species and mussels. Limpkins are known to extract mollusks from their shell using their tweezers-like bill tip in a scissoring motion to cut the adductor muscle and extract a morsel. In addition to vocalizing, the male limpkin also produces a buzzing sound in flight called winnowing through the outermost sickle-shaped flight feathers, believed to be used to mark territory. The limpkin's common name, by the way, is said to reflect its gait, which appeared to early European settlers to look like a limp. The limpkin, Aramus guarana, today's Talkin' Birds, locally sourced, featured feathered friend. By the way, more about wayward birds with Mike O'Connor on Let's Ask Mike in just a little bit. Meanwhile, welcome again to our show number 1067. The reputation of the Endangered Species Act is that it is highly effective, with 99% of species protected by the Act having avoided extinction. It has kept species from going extinct, it has brought some back from the edge, and it has provided a foundation for many conservation efforts. That's my understanding of it, and the Act is now under threat from the Trump administration's proposal to limit protections under the Act. To help us understand this and to learn what might be done to save the Act, we welcome special guest Hardy Kern. He's the Director of Government Relations for American Bird Conservancy's Pesticides and Birds campaigns. He sits on the policy team where he works with NGOs, federal and state agencies, and all levels of government to promulgate laws and regulations which benefit birds. Good morning, Hardy.
Morning. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, great to have you back again, Hardy. So tell us, what is the administration proposing to do to the Endangered Species Act?
The administration is talking about setting a bunch of new implementation guidelines for the Endangered Species Act. So when we think of a law that is passed by Congress, there is the big flashy headline stuff, which is, president signs the bill into law, Congress passes it. But after that happens, the law has a lot of nooks and crannies and things that need to be filled in by experts, which typically happens at the agency level. In the case of the Endangered Species Act, that has fallen to the Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service for any species that are found out in the ocean. So essentially, what is happening now is the law itself is not being repealed, but the implementation guidelines, all the regulations that say what certain sections mean, how we actually list species, what goes into designating habitat as critical for an endangered or threatened species. Those are all being rewritten, and frankly, they're being repealed. Most of them are just being completely gutted in this particular case and reverted back to how they were in 2019 during the first Trump administration. That's what's being proposed right now.
Mm-hmm. So as I understand it, the act right now requires the government to consider only the best available science when making the decisions, but this would change that and bring all these economic factors into play here and just changing how that all works.
Yeah, the way that it's being proposed is in 4 separate dockets. So basically 4 different very detailed sections where they even go in and show you what is being redlined and what is being added in these different parts of the Endangered Species Act. The 2 sections that are under fire right now are Section 4, which deals with what goes into determining whether or not a species should be listed, and then Section 7, which deals with how agencies talk to one another when they're proposing new projects. And one of the sections, maybe the most concerning one, was what you were talking about, the economic considerations. As they currently stand, when you're determining whether or not an endangered species should be listed, or whether or not a species rather should be listed under the Endangered Species Act, we're asked to consider the best available science. What does their historic population look like? Where is it now? What is causing them to decline? And what can we do about it? These new regulations, one of the provisions says that we now need to factor in economic considerations. So what will this do to business, essentially? If you're looking to extract resources, if you're looking to do new construction in an area where a threatened or endangered species lives, you have to think, okay, but is this going to be good for business? And that is not how the law was originally intended to work, and certainly not how we'd like it to work right now.
One source says these substantive changes to the ESA will likely mean extinction for species currently on the brink. Which species are most likely to be affected this way?
I think some of the species that we're going to see, unfortunately, some really major impacts from these rules are species that are currently listed as threatened, so they haven't quite reached that endangered category yet, but one of the sections that's being proposed to change is called the blanket 4D rule, which when you boil it down means if you're listed as threatened, you get most of the same protections as a species that's endangered. So for that, we're thinking about birds like the northern spotted owl, which is currently listed as threatened, or the Florida scrub jay, the Florida scrub jay, which are birds that could potentially continue to decline and become endangered if they lose all these federal protections. And then on the endangered side of things, the birds that we're really worried about are the ones that are in the most fragile ecosystems, like the akikiki in Hawaii, this gorgeous little greenish yellow songbird that bops around. They're being really impacted right now, not only by changing temperatures and habitat, but also avian malaria. They're running out of places to go, and these regulations are going to make it a lot harder for us to designate habitat that they might need to expand into. We've also got the eastern black rail out on the eastern United States. Very small pocket populations. It's really rare to find them. And if these regulations were to go forward as they're being proposed, it's basically going to say, when an agency is looking at doing an action potentially in eastern rail habitat, they might not have to weigh into their factors what it's going to take to accomplish this project, what it's going to cost the bird, and it's just going to make it a lot easier to build and extract resources and a lot harder to conserve wildlife.
Well, there's a public comment period open now and continuing through December 22nd.
Yes, sir.
Now, can this have a real impact, public comment, and what else can be done that might keep the act from being weakened?
Public comment periods are a phenomenal way for people to let the agencies know what they're thinking on a particular action. So it's a great way for you to log in to regulations.gov, or we made it easy for you at American Bird Conservancy. We've got a link on our website under the Support Us and then the Take Action section. You can let the agencies know that you support the Endangered Species Act. And one of the great things about the way that these regulations work are that the agencies have to consider every single substantive comment that's made. So if you decide to take our action alert, or if you decide to go in even better and comment yourself, they have to look at that and realize that, okay, this is something that is really, really important to people. And other things you can do are just listening to programs like Talking Birds. This is great just to get more informed about it. Talk to your friends and relatives, and it never hurts to reach out to your elected officials, or if you happen to live somewhere where there's a National Wildlife Refuge, Fish and Wildlife Office, let them know that this is something that you care about as well. And we always urge people to be, polite and very science-based in their assertions, but don't be afraid to say, this is something I care a lot about. Those personal stories that you can add about what endangered species or threatened species mean to you, and a great interaction you've had as a birder. Some of my favorite things have been seeing, snowy plovers walking around, and telling those stories is a great way to really ground your points and how you're feeling. And
you can do it through that .gov site, as you mentioned, but you've also made it a whole lot easier through ABC Birds, and I want to give that address here, and it's abcbirds.org. You just go to Support and Act, and you can kind of follow the bouncing ball from there to take action on bird conservation issues. Really makes it so much easier to do instead of having to enter all those docket numbers and whatnot. It's abcbirds.org. Hardy Kern is the Director of Government Relations for American Bird Conservancy's Pesticides and Birds campaigns. His portfolio is mainly focused on pesticides, lead poisoning, environmental pollution, and the Endangered Species Act, though he advises all parts of American Bird Conservancy on governmental engagement. Hardy, thanks for the info about this, including those actions that folks can take to fight back against the changes.
Thank you so much, and don't feel too bad about the limpkin. I had the same thing happen to me with a snowy owl a few weeks ago, so you're in good company, my friend.
Appreciate it. Hardy Kern here on Talking Birds. And up next, it's our Mystery Bird Contest in just 1 minute. The flutter of a tail feather, the flash of a wing bar in mid-flight. You don't always have a lot of time to identify a bird in nature, let alone to appreciate its beauty. But with Vortex Optics, you'll have the power to bring every wild moment closer. When you choose Vortex, you're choosing to have a partner in the field as passionate about nature as you are. Whether you're spotting old friends on the backyard feeder or packing for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to add a few species to your life list, Vortex offers a full range of optics and optics accessories for every birder and every budget. And whether the birds are taking you to another state or another country, you're always covered by the Vortex VIP warranty, an unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. If you'd like to learn more, or if you need help choosing your next optic, give Vortex a call at 1-800-4-VORTEX or visit vortexoptics.com. Here's that mystery bird again. Sounds like a small bird. It is a small bird, a very small songbird. Blue-gray upper parts, buffy white underparts. The head has a dark gray-brown cap. Has a thick black eye line, a straight, sharp bill, and there's a gray spot on the nape. That's what the bird looks like. It's a year-round resident of southwest Canada, much of the western U.S., and central Mexico. It climbs down tree trunks and branches in search of things like caterpillars and other insects, conifer seeds as well. In your backyard, sunflower seeds and nuts are an attractant. That's our mystery bird. Tell us what it is and call us as soon as you possibly can so we'll have time for the contest thing. Here's the number, and I'll repeat it, 781-837-4900. I'll repeat it after I'll give you these list of prizes again from Plain Products. That's Plain ending with an E. Those beautiful shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and body lotion in reusable aluminum bottles, not plastic. And from our friends at Birds and Beans, a 12-ounce bag of delicious, bird-friendly, shade-grown coffee. And I want to give a little extra pat on the back to Birds and Beans, our friends there, because they are holding their regular prices steady, despite all the tariffs and all the other price pressures. So Birds and Beans doing good things for birds and customers as well. So that's our Mystery Bird Contest coming along in just a little bit. Meanwhile, more about wayward birds. It's Let's Ask Mike from the archives in just 1 minute. Birds and Beans announces the holiday gift box, the perfect gift for your coffee-loving friends. 12-ounce bags of great-tasting Birds and Beans coffee. 2 bags each of Wood Thrush Breakfast Roast, American Red Start Light Roast, Scarlet Tanager French Roast, Chestnut-Sided Warbler Medium Roast, Baltimore Oriole French Roast Decaf, and the newest roast, Kingbird Espresso. Ground and ready to brew, or whole bean if you like, all for $150, a savings of more than 30%. Shipping still just $10.50 any volume anywhere in the U.S. The offer ends soon, so order now at birdsandbeanscoffee.com. Treat your friends and family to delicious Birds and Beans shade-grown coffee and help save birds in their wintering habitat in the process. Don't wait. Order the holiday gift box. 12-ounce bags of delicious Birds and Beans shade-grown certified organic fair trade coffee. Now at birdsandbeanscoffee.com. That's birdsandbeanscoffee.com. Well, you may have heard of Wrong Way Corrigan as a famous or infamous football player from I'm not sure when. But today we have Wrong Way O'Connor. That'd be Mike O'Connor down there at the famous Birdwatchers General Store on Cape Cod. Good morning, Mike.
How old do you think the people listening are if they remember Wrong Way Corrigan?
Well, I did that for you because I figured you would perhaps remember. But right. You're not the one who's wrong way. You're just observing birds that are going the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. And today we're going to talk about unusual birds that show up in areas where they aren't supposed to be. And typically when a bird shows up that shouldn't be in the area, like right now I have orioles that should have been gone, and a neighbor down the street has painted buntings, and they shouldn't be here at any time of the year, and somebody else has a western tanager, and everybody automatically thinks, well, they were blown in by a storm. And while storms will bring birds in, occasionally, usually they're seabirds, those birds, when they get blown in, once those birds recover, and if they do, sometimes they don't recover, but if they do recover and they get their strength back, they get out of town. They go back to where they're supposed to be. They've worked their way back. But sometimes when a bird appears in an area this time of year, it simply has migrated the wrong way. So, like the case of the painted buntings, they're supposed to go on south, and they end up north. And the unusual part is, like a neighbor had a summer tanager one year, which shouldn't be here even in the summer, and then it showed up in the winter. It returned the next year. So there's evidence that these birds, not only for whatever reason, their GPS gets messed up, and they go the wrong direction, and when they get to where they think, okay, this looks like Costa Rica, and it's not, they settle in, and they think that's where they're supposed to be. And they didn't get blown in. They flew on their own. They just went the wrong way. And then they'll leave in the spring, and then they come back in the winter if they survive. And it's kind of an unusual thing. And then that gets everybody excited. They run out and take pictures. And then there's more to that where there's birds that decide, you know what, this migration thing is hard. We have to fly to South America. I'm just going to wait it out. I'm just going to wait it out and see what happens. I'm kind of simplifying the fact. But there are birds that are pioneers that just think, okay, they don't migrate for whatever reason. They're tired, they're sick, they're old, and they survive the winter, and then another bird survives. And that's how the birds expand their range. So we have tufted titmice and cardinals, but back when I was born, there was no tufted titmice and cardinals in this part of New England, and now they're all through New England. So birds migrate the wrong way, and sometimes they extend their range, or they just don't bother migrating at all, and again, helps them extend their range. And when you don't have to do anything about it, people feel bad, they want to help them. Now, let it run their course, because obviously if it's not good for the species, the ones that are going the wrong way don't benefit the species unless they can figure it out on their own.
And they'll figure it out eventually, right?
Right, and now everybody has to go Google Wrong Way Corrigan and see what they're talking about.
Yeah, Google Wrong Way Corrigan. This is very loud music, Elvis, for some reason, but I think we got it, the Wrong Way Corrigan. Everybody's going to want to. The search numbers are going to be huge for Wrong Way Corrigan after this. I can guarantee it. All right, Mike. Thank you. We'll talk next week.
Sounds okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Mike O'Connor there at the famous Birdwatchers General Store on Cape Cod, and we're coming back here to the Mystery Bird Contest. There's the Mystery Bird, but before we continue on that, we have to make a correction there, because Wrong Way Corrigan was not a football player. Well, maybe he played football, but that's not what he's famous for. There were some football players who ran the wrong way, but in 1938, pilot Douglas Corrigan made aviation history by, quote, accidentally flying from New York to Ireland. He'd been denied permission for a transatlantic flight, so he took off, claiming he was headed for California. But 28 hours later, he landed in Dublin, insisting it was a navigational mistake. The press dubbed him Wrong Way Corrigan, and he returned to a hero's welcome. Just wanted to straighten that out. Our mystery bird, a very small songbird with blue-gray upper parts and buffy white underparts. The head has a dark gray-brown cap and a thick black eye line, a straight, sharp bill, and there's a dark gray spot on the nape. What is that? Mystery Bird, 781-837-4900 is a number to call if you know the answer or want to take a guess, because no correct answer means a drawing determines our winner. And Doug is in the great state of Virginia. Good morning, Doug. Hello, Doug.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes. Good morning, Doug.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. So maybe you heard those clues, Doug, the sound of that bird, and you have concluded what exactly?
I think it's a pygmy nuthatch.
Let me check the records here to see if that is exactly correct. And that is right. Our records confirm it. The pygmy nuthatch. This is really.
Well, that's great. We have a daughter in Washington State, so we've seen that one fairly recently.
Oh, cool! And you saw them? Saw some?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's similar to our brown-headed nuthatch here in the east.
Exactly, except even smaller. They can survive those cold nights in tree cavities, huddling together. I just read this from the Cornell lab. It says this bird, the pygmy nuthatch, and the unrelated Vaux's swift are the only bird species in North America that combine three energy-saving mechanisms to stay warm. One is sheltering in tree cavities, the other is huddling together, and the third one is they let their body temperature drop into hypothermia to survive the cold. So they've got it figured out there. Doug, thank you so much. And let's see, I think we have time for a bonus question. Let's try it.
We'll try.
All right, this is a conservation question, and it's a quote, a famous conservation quote, or at least a famous, I don't know if it's famous, but it's a quote. It is horrifying that we have to fight our own government to save the environment. Who said it? Environmental activist Bill McKibben, actor and environmentalist Leonardo DiCaprio, that's A and B. C, Pope Leo XIV, current head of the Catholic Church, or 20th century photographer Ansel Adams. Who said that?
Well, I suppose they're all good guesses. I'll go with I'll go with D, Ansel Adams.
Ansel Adams is absolutely right. The great photographer and lifelong conservationist. He said that in a 1983 interview. History is repeating itself. Thanks so much, Doug. Stay on the line. We'll get your info, okay? Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
We're out of time. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
I like that.
Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com.
And by Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty. Their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.